Hello everyone and welcome to the GBA D-League Game of the Week for week number 4. This is the Accrington Stantlers versus the Houston Gastros. A very big game for this division. If the Gastros can win, they will pull really close to the Stantlers. In fact, they will tie in terms of record. But since we do go based off differential in the GBA, the Stantlers I think would still be on top unless it was like a big win. So this is definitely an important game for both teams. I know I featured the Stantlers last week, but I was going to feature a different team this week, but the result was not... I don't think it would have been as entertaining as this game. This is a pretty long game, and it's definitely going to watch. So we're going to go ahead, though, and get into the team preview right now, talk about what's going on. And I will mention before this gets started, this is taking place on Showdown. So if, you know, watching Showdown isn't really your thing, I can understand if you don't want to watch this one, but unfortunately, Mike, the owner of the Houston Gastros, is having real issues with his internet at college. He's trying his hardest to get Wi-Fi to work on his 3DS, but it's just not happening. So he has to do his games on Showdown, which is understandable. Life happens, and it's not even that big of a deal. He can still get his games done. So at least we got something to watch here. So in terms of the team preview, I actually was pretty pleased with both teams. What they brought, the Pokemon that they brought. The Gastros brought Nidoqueen, Darmanitan, Mew, Cobalion, Togekiss, and Suicune, while the Stantlers brought Roserade, Florges, Vaporeon, Mega Sableye, Infernape, and Regirock. So, right off the bat, at first glance, I would have changed one thing with the Gastros team, and that's I would have swapped out Togekiss for Raikou. I know that makes Sableye a bit more difficult to deal with, but I've already seen this game, and I know that the Gastros had a plan for Sableye other than Togekiss anyway, so I really don't feel like Togekiss was necessary in hindsight. And I don't want to make too many of these hindsight-based, but I kind of have to in this situation. I think Raikou would have just been a lot better paired with Darmanitan. That's a cool duo to get a lot of momentum with Volt Switching and U-turning. And I think that would have put a lot more pressure on the Stantlers. And the Stantlers, I like the team they brought. I actually wouldn't change a thing. I don't think they had too many better options. Latias isn't a great choice because Togekiss and Spiritomb are sitting in there. You don't want to give that too many chances to come in and do things. So I really am pleased with both teams, what they brought. I feel like they did a really good job reading the other person's team and finding matchups that would benefit them. But some problems I could see for each team. Suicune is always a problem. The Stantlers do have Roserade, but sometimes when you rely on one Pokemon to get the job done and that Pokemon goes down because of, say, like a crit or a flinch, or it just got worn down and you didn't think to preserve it, that could end up being an issue. So I think maybe the Stantlers should have... I hope they're packing a contingency to deal with that Suicune, is what I should say. And in terms of like the Gastros, things they're going to have issues with, I could still see Mega Sableye being a problem, even though he has the Mew and the Togekiss. It still is really bulky, and it's going to force a lot of switches from the Gastros. And as always, Vaporeon is very bulky. It's kind of like Suicune, very tough to take down, and hits pretty hard too. It's no slouch in the special attacking stats, so that's something you definitely have to be wary of and have to watch out for, and that really just shuts down the opposing Darmanitan. That paired with Regirock really makes Darmanitan tough to get offensive momentum with. And I think that's going to make Nidoqueen a really important Pokemon because it can somewhat deal with a lot of these walls that we saw the Stantlers bring. Nidoqueen has the coverage to hit them all super effectively except for Sableye. And as I said before, just looking at the teams, without even any context, you can see that the Gastros obviously knew Sableye was a huge threat, and they brought things to account for it. So I'm really intrigued to see how this matchup is going to play out, though, and we will see that right now when we get into the game itself. Okay, everybody, so we're going to have this game playing at normal speed, so it might be a little slow for you if that's the case. I'm sorry, but I really want to make sure I can get all my thoughts fleshed out while I'm talking and help you guys maybe get better, or catch some things that you maybe would have missed. So we start the battle off, and of course we see Darmanitan come out. It's a very common lead, and the Stantlers predict that, I think, and go with Regirock, although taking a superpower wouldn't be too wise, so I can completely understand the switch into Sableye here. Gonna have to get the Mega off if this Sableye does stay in, and because it has Prankster before it Mega evolves, it does in fact get that Will-O-Wisp off before the Cobalion can attack with Volt Switch. I feel like the Gastros definitely should have saw that coming and gone straight to Darmanitan, not worried about Volt Switch. The Volt Switch damage really isn't that big of a deal, and I feel like that getting that Cobalion burned really hurts. So we do see Nidoqueen come in off the U-turn, and a very ballsy play by the Stantlers to stay in and take, or not take, but to stay in and go for Earthquake. I guess predicting Stealth Rock. I don't know if I agree with that necessarily. That's going to make Darmanitan a bit more of a threat because Regirock is worn down, but it worked out. Got a lot of valuable damage on that Nidoqueen, and now if we just see like a layer of spikes or Stealth Rock come out from the Stantlers, that Nidoqueen is just gone. I mean, unless there's a Defog that comes out, that would be the only thing that can save it, and sometimes you don't always have that option. So we do see, though, this burn playing a huge role. If that Cobalion was not burned here, this Roserade would be gone because of the Iron Head. So really, I think a play the Gastros are probably regretting in hindsight. That really is, it's a really big deal to not have Cobalion hitting as hard as it can because it's so weak to begin with. So Roserade does get that one spike up. That's going to be a big deal. Again, we see Volt Switch come out from Cobalion. Obviously, it's not going to deal much damage to Vaporeon when it's burnt. Even if it's not burnt, Close Combat probably isn't a 2-hit KO because Cobalion just has such a weak attack stat compared to other Pokemon. So we see Nasty Plot come out from this Mew, and I'm very intrigued to see what coverage this Mew is packing. It is in fact packing Dazzling Gleam, and Sableye goes down in one shot. And I don't know if the Stantlers expected that and just went for Shadow Sneak to get damage off, or if they were just completely floored, but I'm pretty sure everybody knows Mew learns every TM in the game. So we do in fact see Ape come out, though. It's going to force the Mew to switch. Ape can hit really hard on multiple sides, so I really don't think it's worth keeping the Mew in there. And we do in fact see Togekiss come out, take that Flare Blitz pretty well, and just going to get a Roost off and Defog off. So now Nidoqueen is safe to come back in later on a free switch. Obviously can't switch into an attack, it'll still go down at 1%. Not exactly going to be too healthy there. So Florges versus Togekiss. It'll be interesting to see if this Togekiss does in fact carry Heal Bell. We did not see it, so that does mean Cobalion likely is going to be burned the rest of the game, as well as Togekiss being toxic. So that's a pretty big deal. Togekiss being toxic is really going to wear it down much faster than otherwise had it not been toxic. So Suicune, pretty standard switch. We see Vaporeon come in on that Suicune. I'm interested to see if this Vaporeon is carrying Toxic. That's going to make Suicune very easy to deal with. And this is a huge play. Getting that Roserade in to try and get the Wish. Not going to work out exactly as planned, but still getting Infernape back up to full health is always nice. It's going to help with wearing down other Mons later on. And Infernape's going to be important. It's going to be dishing out a lot of damage, especially when Suicune is gone. There's not going to be many Mons enjoying the hits that it will be dishing out. So I do think Scald is a bit risky here because Mew does in fact have Synchronize, so I don't know if I would be too happy if if the burn got synced over if it were me, and we do in fact see that happen. So I guess it's a kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. You have to get damage on this Mew because you have to take it out, but at the same time, getting that burn that you kind of want hurts you in the long run as well. So interesting, but it's better than Toxic. That means Vaporeon can't be Toxic at least. So in this scenario, I really think the Gastros should have been a bit more offensive. I don't agree necessarily with this passive roosting strategy because this Mew is not carrying leftovers, so it's not winning out in this scenario. It's basically breaking even every turn it roosts. In fact, as you see the HP bar there, it's losing HP. So we do see Heal Bell come out from Vaporeon though, so now the Toxic or Burn isn't going to matter. We see Heal Bell, so it's really just, I think, the Stantler saying you're gaining nothing from this, so why are you staying in like this? I think the best bet for the Gastros would be just to go for their Stab Psychic attack if they have it. I would imagine they have Stab. You very rarely see setup Mons without Stab. Maybe Mons with like Sheer Force can get away with just coverage moves, but I don't think Mew can get away with just coverage. It's not quite strong enough. So I guess the Gastros just decided to waste a nasty plot boost and go into Suicune. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I just think sometimes you have to go for it, and in that scenario, not going for it, I feel hurts the Gastros more than it helps them. So we do see Roserade come in though and get off a big Giga Drain, and we do see Suicune roar. This roar is not helping the Gastrodons at all right now, because it's nice to roar when you have hazards up, but when you don't have hazards up, roar is really, it might as well just be you're doing nothing that turn, because you're not necessarily gaining any momentum, and you're not hurting your opponent by making them take hazard damage when they come in. So I really don't know if I agree with doing all this roar shuffling without having hazards up. So obviously the Gastros have to switch out of this Roserade here. This Roserade is applying a lot of pressure because Stealth Rock is up. Darmanitan can't exactly just switch into this Roserade every time. It also has to fear moves like Sleep Powder or Sludge Bomb even. Like if the Stantlers predict the Darmanitan switch, Sludge Bomb is going to deal a huge amount of damage to Darmanitan. So that Roserade, I feel, is being the clutch performer right now. But we do see Togekiss come in to deal with this Vaporeon. Like I said before, I don't think this Togekiss is carrying Heal Bell. We do see Defog, it had Roost. I think we also saw Dazzling Gleam. So there's 3 moves down, and I doubt that Heal Bell is the last one. And we do in fact see Sludge Bomb come out from Roserade. It's not really a prediction because Togekiss is weak to Poison. So I don't know if that was necessarily the smartest play made by the Gastros. But at the same time, they really have very few plays to make at this point. Going into Darmanitan might have actually been the best play there, but if it got poisoned, Darmanitan pretty much would be out of commission. So we do see Suicune finally wake up and roar out that Roserade as it comes in. But really, we aren't seeing too much coverage from the Gastros team that can deal with the Stantlers Roserade. So we see Mew come out on the Vaporeon, get a Roost off, which is going to help a little bit, I guess. The problem is with no leftovers, this Mew is not gaining much from roosting. Scald has more PP than Roost, so Scald will always win out in this PP stall war, and Mew is taking 42% on average from every turn that goes on, so it's not gaining much, if anything, because it is so close to full health from that exchange. So I think the Gastros recognize that Mew is probably going to be the way that they break down enough threats to maybe clean up with Darmanitan and switch out to Togekiss. We do see the Roserade come in on this Togekiss, and Sludge Bomb does a huge amount of damage, and we see Air Slash as the last attack from the Gastros. And as you can tell, that Roserade has really high special defense, and Air Slash doesn't even manage to hit it for 50% damage. So I would expect Darmanitan, and here it is, probably going to go for U-turn. That seems to be the play that they've been making a lot this game. And we do see Superpower come out, so a nice prediction that's going to allow Regirock, or going to allow the Gastros to take down Regirock if the Stantlers stay in. But knowing that this Darmanitan is most likely Choice Scarfed, there really is no reason to just let something go down for nothing. Preserve the differential, go into Florges, and take that hit like it's nothing. So we see Suicune come out on Florges. It has Rest, so Florges cannot Toxic Stall this thing. And we're going to see... Oh no, actually the Stantlers made a nice double going into Roserade on that Florges and getting Spike up. Spike is going to be huge. The Gastros Defogger is now gone, and that very well could be the play of the game because Nidoqueen is now dead on arrival. There's no way for that thing to get rid of spikes. So Darmanitan's going to be taking huge damage, and now we see the second layer of spikes come up, and I think really at this point that pretty much signals the end of the line for the Gastros. I just see very few scenarios in which the Gastros are going to gain any offensive momentum here, and Darmanitan is now also dead on entry, and Mew is very close to dead on entry as well, and Suicune, as we have seen, does not have the moveset that can carry this game for the Gastros. If it was I'm thinking of Keldeo. If it was Calm Mind Rest Talk with Ice Beam, that potentially could happen, but even at +6, I doubt Ice Beam 2-hit KOs Vaporeon. In fact, I know it doesn't 2-hit KO Vaporeon, so there's really no moveset that the Gastros could have that can win this game, and all the Stantlers had to do here was just go into Vaporeon. There really is no sense in risking Roserade here. It's just Roserade can easily finish out that Suicune on its own, so just making sure that this Mew can't set up is definitely the best bet the Stantlers have to go for, and just keep Scalding is definitely the right play, because Roost, as we saw earlier, is not really gaining much profit for the Gastros here. It's getting about 7%. There's not enough Roost for this to work out for the Gastros. You have to, in my opinion, the Gastros just have to go for damage here, but it doesn't matter because those hazards are up. So there's really nothing, honestly, if this wasn't the GBA, I'm sure the Gastros would have just forfeited. This game is basically over. And we do in fact see Psyshock, not Psychic. I don't know if Psyshock was the better option. We do see Florges, so that probably is why the Gastros are running Psyshock as opposed to Psychic, because Psyshock will hit Florges much harder than Psychic. So I'm guessing that's the reason why, but it is a bit weaker, and I guess it is also stronger against Vaporeon too, so probably Psyshock is actually the better move to have in this scenario, but it's just not going to happen. The Vaporeon has Protect, so it's even worse for the Gastros, and I think they also ran out of, Roost, yes. So, that was actually Life Orb Mew, I think. So, as we see, Darmanitan goes down to the hazards, and Suicune is just going to die to Roserade, and I'm pretty sure that the Gastros are just going to concede that fact, and we do in fact see Roserade come in. And the Gastros do go for rest, which I don't know if that was necessarily the correct thing to do. I think when you know you've lost the game, it's better to just go for Scald and just have the Giga Drain take you out. But we do see the rest, so never die attitude from the Gastros. I like it, but we do see that Giga Drain is an easy to a KO. And I don't even think this Suicune, oh, it does have leftovers, so it wouldn't be an easy 2-hit KO at full HP, but it doesn't matter. Leech Seed is going to help net that KO, and there we go. The Roserade carries the Stantlers to victory, and very impressive performance by the Stantlers. We've seen them now featured 2 weeks in a row and get 2 wins in a row, both in the division, and that's a big deal. Winning both of these games puts them in prime playoff position going into the halfway point. The only team that's kind of contesting them is the Staraptors at this point in the season, and the Staraptors, as we saw last week, lost to the Stantlers. So now that lets us segue into the Pokemon of the game, and this week the Pokemon of the game is in fact Roserade. All game long, Roserade was the offensive pressure that the Stantlers needed. It just seems like after Sableye went down to the Mew, Infernape came in, forced that Mew out, and then Roserade just really took over the game. It constantly, you could just tell in the play style of the Gastros, Roserade was the linchpin that the Stantlers needed to like carry that game. It did so much, and I really feel like 3-0 doesn't even tell the story on that Roserade. I feel like that Roserade just really, if it had been a different type Pokemon, like if it had been a grass type like Shaman, probably would have been a similar result. But if it had been like a different like Pokemon, then I feel like the Stantlers might have lost this game. Roserade really clutched this game out for the Stantlers, and I really appreciate what it did. Like, it was really impressive to see one Pokemon carry a game so heavily like that. So that's it for this week, though. Next week will be the Dolphinions. That's the last team I have to feature, so regardless of what happens, they will be in the game of the week. And then after that, I can just solely focus on the best quality matches of each week. So I'm really looking forward to that aspect. Look forward to seeing the Dolphinions next week. I forget who they play against. If I remember, I'll like put an annotation. I don't know. We'll see, but long video. I want to thank you all for watching. Again, thanks for understanding that this was late. It's been a rough go of it these past 2 weeks, so hopefully things will start looking up come this next week, week 5. So thanks for watching, everybody. Take it easy, and peace out.